All right. Hi, I just got the thumbs up, so I think that means I can start talking. My name's Dr. Lynette Louise, and I believe that most of my education came from the fact that I raised multiple children with multiple challenges. Four of my boys were adopted with special needs, autism, Tourette's, PDD, ADHD, it goes on the list. You keep going and going. My one son, it was earlier than when they had the spectrum for autism. And I used to call him the Heinz 57 version of special needs because every time he went in to see a professional, they would give him a new diagnosis, some other cognitive challenge. He had auditory dyslexia, so he heard the sounds coming in backwards. I'd never heard of that at the time. And in order to help the children, I started learning. I started taking classes. I started working with them. I got a couple more kids, 8 all told, 2 were biological. And the story just unfolded over the years. So here I am. I'm 68 years old. That generation has grown, and I've helped the next generation, and I've helped people all over the world, and I've educated. And in the end, what you really learn when you're trying to help children with any kind of, well, children, actually, people, what you learn is that nobody remembers what they're not interested in unless their body remembers it. So there's different kinds of memory. And as I worked with, actually recently, I wrote a book. This is it, In Search of Teresa. It was me trying to learn about this woman that had multiple personalities. And in that process, I really dived into, in a deep way, memory and the problems with memory and how it presents. So I suggest if you, after this talk, if you're still interested, even though that one's not about autism, this one is Miracles Are Made, Real Life Guide to Autism. But even though In Search of Teresa is not about autism, she is special. And you really come to understand memory through that book. I think it's super important. And here's why. Before I tell you about autism and memory, I have to tell you about memory and you. Probably you've misunderstood it. The kind of memory that you do when you're learning piano, for example. And so you do the same move, the same song over and over and over again. That's a different kind of memory than the kind of memory where you're trying to recall an event or put a name to someone's face or do your math. These are all different, and they're in different parts of the brain. And let's bring the camera closer. In autism, it's a whole brain disorder. It's a challenge everywhere. It shows up in different ways, but it always has memory issues. And that's because all these things, all these types of memory, they take place in different parts of the brain. So let's talk about you. If you're a therapist, if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're all of the above, I was all of the above. If you're a doctor, you have to think first, if you really want to impact the child in a way where they grow to generalize their skills, think first about how memory works. When you remember, when you go, hey, I remember that time when I was 8 years old and I was in the playground and some boy did whatever, and you have this story. When you do that, you don't actually have a file cabinet in your head where you go in and grab this memory and bring it forward. What you actually do is have a reason in the present day for what you want to remember. You have an emotion in the present day that's related to why you want to remember. You go into your brain with your thoughts, where they live, and you grab fragments, little fragments, like just little molecular fragments of the picture, and you put it together and you create the memory in this moment, in the present. Why does that matter? Well, let's talk about you first. I've only got 30 minutes, so I have to get you to understand you, and then we're going to transfer that over to how to help you understand your child. So, you are depressed one day. You've worked too hard. You haven't had enough water, so you're getting dehydrated. And that's made you tired, and you can't pull from your brain the kind of quick thinking you're used to. And maybe, I don't know, you didn't get the raise you were trying to get. So you have an excuse in your mind for that. And then you think, I'm just going to rest right now. I'm just going to sit down, and thoughts start to bubble up, right? And then your depression gets a little deeper. Man, in the present day, you say, man, I never get what I want. I never get raises. Like, for example, and now you think back, but you took with you, well, actually, you bring back forward, but because you're creating it, but to help you see it, you have this feeling, you have this belief already that you're not ever getting what you want. And you go back and you look for fragments in your life that you can pile together and create into a memory that prove you right, because we always want to prove ourselves right. That's how we work. Okay. So, oh, I remember that time I wanted a hula hoop when I was 10 and I couldn't get it. It can be the most ridiculous little stuff. But in that moment, when you have those feelings and you're reaching back to understand, you will feel it as if it was heavy, because you're heavy now. Now, let's think about that in a way that relates to our relationships. I gave you simple examples, like the hula hoop, right? But what if, while you're sitting there with this heaviness and not enough water in your system, so you're kind of dehydrated and you can't think fast and you can't be happy, what if you think, oh, my wife or my husband or my cousin or my mom, right? And as soon as those thoughts, before it's even a memory, my husband, for example, my husband, you'll start to create something. The words my husband say, okay, negative feelings, go find a memory, fragments of a memory that we can use to prove our life sucks. Because I've decided in this example, that my life sucks and I never get what I want. And I said the words my husband, so I aimed my thoughts at my husband and I looked and I found something. And maybe it was, the day that he forgot to bring me flowers when I was asking him to, or my birthday or something. Let's go with flowers. He didn't bring me flowers that I don't like getting flowers. Don't give me flowers ever. But but um, in this example, he forgot to give you flowers, and you wanted him to. And so you grab this example, and as you bring it into your mind, it fills in. You see an expression, you feel a feeling, you hear words that, "Oh, I didn't even remember that before," because it never happened, probably. We build a story every time we remember. It'll be out of something kind of true, right? Kind of like the news. The news will give you something kind of true. They'll show you proof. Well, nowadays it's really difficult with AI to know what's true, but there'll always be a nugget of some sort. And then they build the story around it. Your brain does that too. That's where we got the idea to do it, in the news. So when you grab that and remember, you'll be certain you're right. You won't recognize that as maybe I'm right, maybe I'm not right. You'll go, yes, that's true. And it will feel like proof of your depression, and your depression will grow and grow while you sit there until you distract yourself into some other kind of thinking, or get moving, or have a sleep, or eat a good meal. You have to shift purposefully, hopefully, so that you're in charge of yourself, right? Not just letting life blow you around like a leaf in the wind. But regardless, eventually, hopefully you shift, unless you're in a clinical depression, and then you'll sit there for a long time, or grief can grab you that way. So think about this for a minute. Just before I go to parenting, think about how that influences your everyday. How amazing it is that we can remember it all, that we have these fragments, and how very important it is to try to be neutral or positive. Because in that exact same example with the flowers, if you were happy and you were like, oh my gosh, I just won the lottery, I'm so excited, everything works out for me. Those words, everything works out for me. Or some simple thing, oh my gosh, I found my missing ring, everything works out for me. Those words tell your brain how to build the story. Then when you say, oh, like that time my husband, it aims it. So it's going to build a positive story where everything works out for you. And it's going to aim the pointer at your husband, because you said my husband. And now it's going to go looking for proof that everything works out for you. And you might go, oh, like that time he forgot to bring me flowers. And then this new part of the story evolves. But he felt so bad he forgot to bring me flowers that we had the best night ever. We went out and we went out in the garden in the middle of the night, and we picked some flowers and made a little bouquet. It might even have just been some dandelion he handed you, right? But you'll build it beautiful because you're feeling beautiful. You won't build a total lie, but you'll build a perspective that you embellish. We always embellish a little as a result of our emotions and our imagination and our creativity. They all come together to make you human. Okay, so let's pretend that you know now that that's how event memory works, emotional memory. There's also things like math. If you've bumped your head when you were a kid in the parietal lobe, or it just didn't develop really well, or genetically it's not set up well, you might have a real hard time with math. And you might work and work and work and work to do your percentages, but you just can't remember them. You can do it while you're learning it. You can do it by rote, but then you don't work on it for a few weeks and you come back to it and it's gone. When an area of your brain is having difficulty operating, it has to, it's sort of like, let's say you're having difficulty getting electricity into your RV. I'm in an RV right now. That's not a green, a green screen background. That's the actual background with crows going, wah, wah. Anyway. So let's say you're having trouble getting electricity in, and so you turn off most of the lights. Well, your brain's like that. It goes, I'm having trouble operating, so I'm gonna turn off the things that I don't do well so that I can do the things I do well even better. It takes care of it saves energy. It doesn't waste its time. And that gets in the way of generalizing skills that you're trying to learn if you're not that interested in them, especially. So that's math And then there's your body. If your body repeatedly does something, like I was saying with playing the piano, your hands will naturally feel like they know what to do. There's a motor memory in that. But even that, if that's a thing that you have a challenge with, it won't matter how many times you practice. You'll always have to focus on it and work it, and it just won't take off for you. If there's a problem, a physical, structural problem in the brain in that way, you can build memory, you can build different routes for your brain to take in order to overcome and compensate for issues. But you can't make it have never been a problem, therefore building from zero to an improved place. That I didn't say that clearly. Let me say that clearly. When you have a problem, you're starting from a problem. So that's like, let's pretend that we have a scale here, right? And my nose is the middle of the scale and it's 0, right? Well, the person with a problem is starting from back here and they have to get to this point from way back there. But the person that never had a problem is starting from my nose and they just have to go this distance. So it'll always be more of an issue for you. So there's many kinds of memory. Oh, we're halfway through this already. So now I got to get to autism. Okay. All right. So you got a sense of that. This is how you operate. Never mind how your person that you're trying to help or teach operates. That's you. Now, let's look at what we're often doing with children with autism. We have a desire. We want a particular behavior or a particular skill. That's us having a present day feeling, a present day focus, like focusing on my husband. That's how you operate, right? We go, this is what I want. This is what we're going to work on. But your person with autism has different wants. And now you're struggling because your want is pushing against their want. Some of this stuff is worth fighting for. It's again like how the brain is so brilliant to know only pay attention to certain amounts of things and really build it when you need it. You should be too. Your child has a problem. We can call it a gift if we want. I see it as a gift, but it's a gift that doesn't fit well into society. It's a gift that is only a gift when we allow them to use the parts of their brain that are gifted and recognize that the other parts can use some help. So I'm going to break it down to a few things so that you can grab it and do something with this knowledge for your child and for yourself. So a lot of the time people say, but my child is so good at academics. Not good at language, not good at social skills, won't make eye contact, runs around crazy, doesn't come back without the fence in the way, right? He's an eloper, all these things, right? Every time you say what your child is, you're pointing the pointer and you're teaching to their memory. And this is super important, even if I don't get anything else out to you. Let's use elopers, someone who runs away. Sometimes they run because they only see in a straight line. They can't think in terms of turn around and come back. Sometimes they run just for the freedom of it. Sometimes they run because movement helps them think and they just want to keep moving and you're going to try to stop them. There's lots of reasons. It can be a sensory reason. Like, I love the sound over there and nobody lets me go over there. Whatever their reason for running is, when you say, you're an eloper, he's an eloper, lock the doors, and you start protecting against it, you're teaching to their memory, this is who you are, this is how you behave, this is what we do. And because, listen to this, because they're interested in running, because they want to run, they're listening to you. But you're teaching them that they have a problem and that you have to stop them. Memory for someone who has challenges comes down to, I will remember well what I'm interested in. Now, it's like that for all of us. That's why I gave you that example, many examples. How we're feeling in the present, what we want to know, what we're interested in, then we go build a memory. Even in our skill memories like rote muscle learning and math, spatial, it's going to come from whether we feel easy learning it or hard learning it. So let's say you want your child to be better at, I'm not going to do speaking today because that's a whole webinar, but math. Let's say you want them to be better at math, at least to the point where they can go to the store with a note maybe, or, just with enough money for what they were sent for and bring back the right change. And they have trouble with math. Well, you have to make it interesting. If you try to teach them math on a piece of paper, they might get it and be really good at it and then not have the faintest idea how to do it at the store. It's because you're not using the memory properly. How memory works is how I explained it. So if you want your child to do an event type thing and go and be independent and go to the store and come back with the right change, that's an event. That's an action. That's emotional, right? If you want that, then you have to build the right pointer, the right interest, and they should be able to do it with the right support. It'll take some time and practice. But practice going to the store with their money, getting their change, coming home, that's got some muscle memory in it if they walk the same route and go to the same store. So there's some additional types of memory they can tune into. But they won't generalize without wanting to. Neither do you. And when we teach children on the spectrum, we too often look at them like, how am I trying to teach them? Instead of looking at them like, what do they want to know? What are they interested in? So if I look at my child and I think, wow, he can line up those toys all day, or he can play with a string all day. A string. My oldest son, my other children are all independent, but I have one son who's still really special. And he can do this all day. Pick up a piece of a leaf, rip it off, go like this, look at it, go like this, and then flick it away and do it again. And it's ever interesting to him. It's better than that, actually. It feels good. And I know that because I had this very almost spiritual experience when I was working with a young man in Paris. Oh, I work all over the world. Anyway, when I was working with a young man in Paris, he used to like to take all these shampoo bottles and put them in, and then in a certain organization, and stand over them and look down on them and go like this. And one day I was doing it to see how it felt, and I could never repeat this. I could never make this happen again for me. But this one day when I did it, I felt this whoosh of absolute peace and calm. Like, I've never experienced it since, but if that is at all present for him, I would never want him to stop. It was wonderful. Imagine having something you can do that makes you feel, and then people taking it away from you. It wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't be able to get on board. You'd be like, here I have this thing. It makes me feel wonderful. Everyone's my enemy. They're all trying to stop me. And then inside you, you feel like they're all my enemy. There's that thought. I'm feeling depressed. I don't have my happy thing. They're all my enemy. You're going to feel angry, and that memory's going to start to pile up. And that's, in my opinion, part of why you see violence a lot. It builds up and it builds up and it builds up. People take away from me all the time. But it doesn't have to go like that. It's actually quite easy to say, all right, what is my child interested in, and what does society need from them, so that they can feel comfortable in society and not have to cocoon away. It's a sophisticated thinking style. You have to work it, right? And you'll work it every day. There'll always be exceptions and lots of failures. But if you come from this place, understanding that that's how memory works, not this, I'm on the outside making you do stuff and eventually you know how to do it and you'll do it everywhere. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. So what you want is them wanting. And if your child is wanting what you're trying to teach, now they'll remember. And now they'll use it well and build on it and generalize from it. So many people that I first teach this to, they say, he's not interested in anything. He doesn't like anything. That's never true, right? As soon as I join in what that child really likes to do, I'd say it's do this and take a leaf and throw it over here. I add, while we're in the want and in the happy and in the place of interest, I add different items that you can do that with. I add counting the number of times you throw that leaf. I add, and you just build from inside the interest. Let's go back to what I said about it's a whole brain disorder or challenge. I don't like the word disorder very much, but it's disordered in your brain, so it's okay. So for some, that's why it looks so different on each person, because it depends on which part of the brain is the most challenged, right? So some people, their speech is perfect, but they say the same thing over and over and over and over again. And others can't get any words out. And then there's the folks that they don't really have a speech problem, but they have a subject problem, right? Oh, please, I'm so tired of this subject. We already talked about it all day long for weeks, right? These issues have to do with how the brain itself was affected by the autism. But they're all, so you can look at them as the broken bits, and then you will reinforce it, like in my example with the eloper. Or you can look at it as the clues. These are the clues to the ways in which your child is gifted and how you can build on that, build that memory with the right present day emotion and the right present day pointer, right? You are capable. You speak really well. I don't want to hear about the squirrel again. So 3 times about the squirrel or 5 times about the squirrel, and then I'm going to tell you about my cat, whatever. But I got the idea because I saw it as a gift. The gift of you speak well, the challenge of you're speaking on the same subject over and over again, and that's difficult in the world. So you're going to have a difficult time socially, and social skills is a problem for most of these kids. So you really want to work it to help them be comfortable in social settings while at the same time learning how to do a social setting without causing everybody else around them grief. And you do that by working with that memory, using that positive mindset, and setting up the pointers properly. Let's see. We're at the I did it. I'm so proud of myself. I usually have to talk for hours, and I think I covered enough for you to work with. I hope I did. It's been a half an hour. That's what I was told I have to do. So I want to thank you very much for coming and listening and being a part of this Facebook Live for Autism Connect. Oh, I have a question. I'll answer it. But I want to show you this. For people who just feel like those other books I showed you are too big and too problematic, this is kind of a workbook that helps you to have a positive mindset and really value yourself. And when you value yourself, you're better at valuing your child. Let me see what my question is. My autistic friend had a hard time generalizing things he's learned. For example, he knows not to use swear words in the store, but not in a waiting room. Could that be a memory issue? Is generalizing a skill or social understanding a memory issue? Okay, so why I decided to focus on memory is because memory is it affects everything, right? So let's say I like this and I swear in a certain place. I say a cuss word when I go to a certain place, and everybody gets, oh my gosh, you said a cuss word. Oh, we just affected the present day emotion, which affects how many fragments of memory are held in place. And when you have a brain that's on the spectrum of autism, the fragments are strongly held because there's less cognitive thinking going on in that arena. And also, it's like a trauma. So when you're a neurotypical person and you're in a situation like that and you get traumatized by everyone's reaction, again, the fragments are strongly held. Now you think back to it, and those pieces are big to you, and you build a story out of that. So, yes, that would be a memory skill. Everything is a memory skill, including social understanding. However, if you don't teach social understanding, then you're leaving the child in this rigid place of only coping with things based on learned memory skill. So you want to mix it together where you go, okay, oh, sorry about that. I didn't mean to overreact. Oh, you overreact sometimes too, right? And then you play a game where they overreact and you overreact, or you say, thank you for calming me down. You decelerate the reaction and add social understanding. And you say, I do so much better when I feel calm and happy. And now you do it before going in the store. We're going to be calm and happy on the way in the store. Let's see. What are some effective brain-based strategy therapies to improve memory skills in children or adults with autism? Okay. So you're going back to, and that would be a different, my son's going to try to come out here in a second. That would be a different approach. I came at this half hour from the memory standpoint because I'm trying to soften everybody's brain-based thinking right now. Everything you do is brain-based, by the way. That's just another way of getting people on board and into a little community. So that you can be brain-based about what you're learning to help your child with. But so here, strategies of therapies to improve memory skills in children of adults with adults with autism. I just told you how memory works, but we are so married to our idea of what memory is that we don't want to hear it, that it's all flexible like that. We don't want to hear that. We want an answer as parents that says, okay, if you do this, that'll help. Well, if you do anything rote, it'll help, right? So, but it'll also hurt. So the idea of brain-based learning, it's good, but it's not good if your child isn't into it. The real core here, the real important piece is get them interested. Make sure they're on board. No matter what you do, whether you get them to do something where it's repeatedly done with their hands, or repeatedly done with math, or repeatedly done with facial recognition, or repeatedly done with it doesn't matter. If they're not wanting that skill, you might see them gain it, but you'll see other stuff come with it. Resistance, anger, rigidity. Most of that comes from the way that we're trying to push brain-based memory skills, brain-based behavioral techniques. All that stuff stops them from using their inherent interest and has them trying to figure out how to get away with giving you what you want while they run and go do what they want. It separates you, it doesn't build, and they need help building. What practical advice would you give to parents or educators who are concerned about a child's memory struggles? So you're really after some practical, huh? All right. So I gave you cognitive. I want to make a point of the fact that whoever's asking questions is really desperately wanting not the cognitive answer, which is really the answer that underscores everything, but you want something practical. A child's memory struggles, the first thing you have to do is categorize it, because memory comes in different forms, right? So there's spatial memory, there's social memory, there's event memory, there's rote memory, like muscle memory. So know what you're working with. Repetition helps with memory, but repetition where the child doesn't like it increases a side effect of your therapy. So get them to like it. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's practical advice. Let's say I'm sitting down with a child and I want them to work on saying a sound. It has to be fun. Let's say they are like my son and they like to take pieces of leaf, then get them to go. If they don't want to do it, at least I do it. Then you get a mirror so they can see, because you see, in this whole area, unless I'm on camera looking at myself or in front of a mirror, I can't see what my face does to make those sounds. And inside my head, I might think I made them. I might hear the word properly, but it doesn't come out right here. So to put those two pieces together, I have to help the person with an adaptation, like looking in a mirror. So that would still be a memory skill. What's your idea of a practical advice for a memory skill? Are you talking about math? Are you talking about remember when we went to Disneyland? That's, practical advice for remember when we went to Disneyland. That's an event memory. Get lots of pictures, make a picture book, tell the story. It's the same as with neurotypical kids. You just do it more, way more, and don't mind. Don't mind repetition. It's your friend. Do it more. At least you know what to do. So often parents just sit back and go, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to play with them. Just play in a way that interests them. Look for the interest. And you start with whatever already interests them, that they're already showing you. All right, our time is up. Think about this stuff. I know that it's nicer to hear a recipe, that everybody wants a recipe. Do this, then this, then this, and they'll remember. But your child is different than the child next to him and the child next to that. So really, if you understand what I shared, you will be able to generalize into the things you're already doing and make a better reaction. Well, that's a terrible way to end, isn't it? Make more success in their memory. All right. Bye. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Autism Connect, thank you for letting me do this.